welcome to everyone for this demo session. I am G. Lakshmi Narayanan, Faculty of ECE Department, and I am executing an ISRO STIC project on design of DSP processor using SEL Foundry. I think the goal of ISRO STIC Center is to bring students startup in defense corridor. I think to bring startup, two steps are majorly two steps are required. First, your innovative idea to be tested. You need to bring for your innovative idea. You need to bring prototype. Prototype is hardware validation of your innovative ideas. Followed by the prototype, you need to take it to bring a commercially viable product. And the intention of this demo session is that I am going to tell you a user-friendly hardware platform, which is going to bring whatever idea you have, going to bring a prototype for your innovative ideas. The platform, what I am referring is that FPGA platform I am referring, FPGA device I am referring. Now I am going to talk about, I think this session, 2 hours we are planning to handle this session. First 15 minutes I am taking about FPGA, applications of FPGA I am taking, followed by we are going to give a complete demo on Xilinx FPGA tool. Another 45 minutes we are giving. Followed by we have a 15 minutes tea break. Followed by the second half, we are planning FPGA. We have demo board. Demo boards we have. Using the demo boards, we are demonstrating some sample programs. We are demonstrating. Followed by the findings of the STIC project we are going to present. Is it clear? So followed by me, MTech students and PhD scholar, I think JRF working the project, taking the lead. Now we will discuss about applications of FPGA. Here I have summarized the use of FPGAs. I have summarized. In this section, in the first 15 minutes, what I am planning to give you that a feel of the FPGA platform to test, system level testing to be carried out. That feel I am planning to give. So FPGA is a field programmable gate array. It is a programmable integrated circuit. It is a hardcore chip, but it is well programmable. And we have a demo board. On the demo board, along the FPGA IC, other interfaces are available. You are understanding? So once that it is a very user-friendly tool. Whatever design you want to test on the demo board, FPGA board, you want to test, you need to describe. There is a hardware description language is available because we are testing hardware design on demo board. We are testing real-time testing. We are carrying out. That is the advantage. So the idea to prototype, it is a convenient way to validate your idea on hardware. User-friendly platform we are going to see. So once in the tool there is an editor is available. In the editor you are describing your design. Once you describe your design, other things are automated. That's why we are saying it is a user-friendly tool. We are saying. So once you describe your design on the tool, other things are by clicking the appropriate phase it will be carried out. And the FPGA is programmable device. Whatever you describe in the editor, it is possible to bring it onto the IC. By programming the IC, whatever we have described on the editor, it is possible to bring. So it is providing, FPGA is an hardware platform used to verify, test your ideas. Mostly digital ideas can be tested. As I told, it is a very user, we are using ECAD tool, because when you want to describe bigger design, see clear, manual approach very tedious, and nowadays the devices are highly capable. Millions of gates, 200 millions of gates, the device is having high capability. So what we are saying is that it is possible to implement complete electronic system on a device. We are saying that's why research area coming up, system on chip design, exposed design as coming up. With FPGA, those things are possible. So user friendly tool. As I told, you need to describe your design in the editor, that's all. The rest of the activity, by clicking they are going to show the demo. The tool is going to carry it out. And the tool is going to do optimization also. Understanding? The tool is intelligent tool. It is going to implement your design well optimally. And the tool, I think free versions are available. We have in all the labs, I think in all the colleges these tools are available. And the free versions also available, you load it in your laptop to carry out. And facilities within the FPGA and on the demo board I have given here. So within the FPGA, because to implement any system, to carry out system level implementation, we need different environment. FPGA is providing that platform. Because FPGA is having inside the FPGA, we have a complete processor. We are having, followed by programmable. The FPGA is a programmable architecture. By the way, you may configure the existing FPGA architecture to implement custom logic. So on the FPGA, already processor is available. There is a possibility of to bring custom circuit. With that you can carry out all type of high level design you can carry out. So that's why the facilities inside the FPGA I have told, high-end processor and IP cores are available. IP cores nothing but, as I told, it is a MATLAB functions. So this processor carrying out data handling. So these images are storing and retrieving, all those I am doing in the processor available within FPGA. Like real-time data, core data also you can process, and this complete bus communication. This is AMBA based ARM bus communication. See, this complete bus communication that FPGA is supporting, these are all ready-made. You need not write the code for processor and bus communication. These are all already code is written, you can invoke only. You need to instantiate in your system level design. That's all. Understand? You need to call those subroutines. That's all. It's clear. So these buses are available. With that I am carrying out video processing. See clear? Image video processing I am carrying out. And this is object detection. So object detection, that is another area coming up. So we may use AI, ML algorithm or deep learning algorithm we may use. All those things you may run it on the FPGA. So using MATLAB, software validation only possible. But in FPGA, because ultimately we want hardware validation. So using FPGA it is possible to do hardware validation, that is the advantage. hardcore. On hardcore, you may able to verify your design. So here, these are the different images. First, I am doing training. See here, I am doing training, and the another advantage is, if any of the routine I need to run parallelly at higher speed, that is also possible within FPGA. We are giving a term called FPGA accelerator. With FPGA accelerator, the speed of those subroutines in software you may run in sequential, but here because it is a hardware platform, parallel executions are possible, parallel implementations are possible, because it is a hardware. You may give signal to multiple sub-modules to carry out the work. So FPGA accelerator I am carrying out to speed up the process, because when I want to check with the original image, the trained image, when I want to check, I need to do lot of iteration, 10,000, 20,000 iteration I need to do, but we want to identify the object immediately. I think I should not say I need to verify with the 10,000 training set. It will take 2 hours. I cannot say. That's why we need to speed up the findings also. For that, FPGA accelerator are used. So we are carrying out those activity here. Training as well as identification we are carrying out. By the way, we are getting the result. And this is the board, this is a demo board. They are going to give live demo to be used to implement all these activities. It is having camera interface, all those interfaces, and inside the FPGA processor and custom logic, FPGA accelerator, all those things we are having. So within the demo board, you can carry out complete singular object identification using AAML-DL algorithm. Validation can be done. And to further emphasize, see clear FPGA. So what are the hardware environment? I think what are available within FPGA? ARM CPU, see clear, CPU, other and all the interfaces are there. So within the chip, here I need to emphasize this is the FPGA chip. Within the chip, everything is available, and that circuit is elaborated here. So within the FPGA, within the board, within the FPGA board, this is the complete platform available. Using this platform, you may implement any type of design, whatever innovative idea at system level you have, that can be validated. And through validation, here you are bringing prototype, because it is a hardware. It is not a software validation. It is hardware. It is possible to bring prototype. So that is, this is complete ARM processor, buses with different. See clear, AMBA, high-speed bus, system bus, peripheral bus, all those things are available. FPGA is supporting all those buses. Those are all already available to you. You need to invoke, that's all. You need to instantiate. And these accessories also available within the FPGA board. CAN, USB drive, all those things are available. So you may implement any application. You may validate any application. You may implement also. Because of startup, I am using a word called validation. These are all, I told that system level activity can be done in FPGA. These are all some student level project. That also it is supporting. From say clear, gate to system video processing, FPGA will support. Okay. And because I started with the student startup, that's why I am briefly tell about CHEDI and ISROSP. And CHEDI, and definition is given, is an independent company See clear? Promoted by our institute. And CHEDI is giving seed money. See clear? CHEDI is giving seed money to enable young entrepreneurs to initiate technology startup companies or commercial exploration of technology developed by them. The CHEDI idea is once you have prototype to bring a commercially viable product. See clear? To bring a commercially viable product, CHEDI is supporting in all levels. An ecosystem is well developed. It is providing money, it is providing mentorship at different level. How your prototype to be brought to product. What are the problems? What are the support you require? Those things CHEDI is giving. Followed by marketing also. See clear? Marketing separate survey to be carried out. For those experts also, CHEDI is ready to support. And about the ISRO ST, see clear? As I told, the goal of ISRO ST to bring student I defined that young, fresh, energetic community to initiate startup in defense corridor. They are supporting, they are pulling you in order to bring student startup in, because defense, I think we need to be self-dependent. See clear? Now most of the things we are buying outside. I think lack of goods we are giving, say outside. So once we self-dependent, basically it is possible to save all those money. So the goal of students, ISRO STIC is to bring student startup on defense, especially on, and the STIC is, you know, see clear? ISRO STIC. So Space Technology Incubation Center it is. I think you are aware that. Space Technology Incubation Center. That's why I used the word defense corridor, otherwise space corridor you may do it. And we are running. As I told, I am executing a project on design of DSP processor like that. I think 7 or 8 projects running under ISRO STIC. And the ISRO STIC projects are guiding the students to develop or create innovative ideas in space corridor or defense corridor. And also this is one thought. Another thought is the projects are guiding you to give right platform to ignite your thinking towards to bring innovative ideas. So today I have introduced a hardware platform, FPGA platform. By the way, if you have your innovative ideas, using those platforms, it is possible to develop, see clear, hardware validation prototype for your innovative ideas. Once you develop, for that I think only you don't require much money. Once you develop the prototype, then CHEDI will support to take you further level.
Then once you are done with the verification, there you will observe the simulation results. Whether let's say for a full adder ABC 001, whether I am getting sum as 1 and carry as 0. All the simulation results you will verify in the RTL verification. Once you are done with that, you will be doing a synthesis. This synthesis, till these steps, everything is common in FPGA and ASIC. Till step 5, everything is common. In the synthesis, in ASIC you will get a gate level netlist, means RTL schematic you call, right? Every gate, basic level of like how many gates are required, all those things you will get. Whereas coming to FPGA, you will get LUT based netlist. So let me spend 1 minute on LUT. You guys thinking how we can program an FPGA? It's very simple. The LUT itself will contain some multiplexer, encoders and a RAM. Okay, RAM in the sense memory, a bunch of flops or registers. You know the truth table of an AND gate. let's say it's 0001. That is the functionality I want for a 2 input AND gate. Now what I will do is, I will dump this direct result into that memory. So now my memory containing 0001. That's it, we are done, we got an AND gate. Let's say after some time you are thinking, no, I don't want AND gate, let me do OR gate. What you will do? You will simply dump the output of OR gate and overwrite the memory. That's it, you programmed the FPGA board. But in ASIC, once you design the hardware, you are done. If you want OR gate, you should start the process from the beginning. You getting the feel, right? Like, see how easy the FPGA, how easy the lives became after getting an FPGA. But high-end applications, we can't go to FPGA. But as a student level, it is very important to learn about FPGA and to work on FPGA. If you want to settle or look yourself in a good semiconductor company or in the hardware domain. So as simple as that. Irrespective of the size of the output that you want, you simply bring that, you dump into the memory that is present in the LUT. That's it. You program the FPGA. As simple as that. So that is very good application. Advantage of FPGA. And then these all steps I will go as quick as possible because ASIC is not our motive. So then in the ASIC, then there will be a separate tool called cadence tool. You will dump these, you will check the logical equivalence whether the logic is correct or not after synthesis, because the tool have the knowledge to optimize your circuit. Let's say some designer who is very intelligent designing a buffer by keeping 4 inverters instead of 2 inverters. Those two are unnecessary inverters, right? So the tool itself will have the knowledge to remove the extra logic and it will make the logic as redundant as possible. So after that you will check the pre-layout STA. STA means static timing analysis. It's between flops and flops, how much delay is there, whether it's matching the requirement and all. Let's say as a user I told you to design a processor or some chip which should work at a speed of 100 gigahertz. But if the delay is more, obviously the frequency of operation will be less, which won't meet the requirement of the user. So those things and all you should take care at each and every step, so that whether you are meeting the specifications of the user or not is very important. Once you are done with STA, you will do the floor plan. How much size of chip you want, that is floor plan. Yeah, I will quickly, just in your house you will do the planning, right? So like that you will plan which module should be present in which part of chip. And then you will do the power plan. You should connect the power supply to each and every transistor that is present. In the book you will write VDD ground, but how you will do that in chip where lakhs and lakhs of transistors will be there. So you should plan the power accordingly. You should draw the nets from the main power supply of the chip and you should do the power planning, and then you should do the partitioning. That the entire code cannot be written by a single one. So it should be partitioned and separately will be written and will be merged at last. And placement, once you are done with floor plan, now you will place the real logic. And then you will do the clock tree synthesis. Clock should be given to each and every module that is present. See, these are not simple like I am going this fast, right? But now it's not required for you. And routing means interconnection of wires between a gate to gate or logic to logic or transistor to transistor. How the interconnections and all will be there will be taken care of the routing step. RC extraction. Since these are real hardware and it's made up of silicon, when you extract RC there will be intermediate resistance and capacitance which are called as parasitics. Outside parasitics and internal parasitics will be extracted in this step. Physical verification. Once you have done the entire hardware, now the real delay, all these things will be coming into picture and you will once again check the functionality of that. And then you will do the post layout STA. After doing the entire layout, you will again check for timing analysis whether it is meeting the requirements of the end user or not. And then you will check whether it's manufacturable or not. Because a manufacturing unit will be working on some nanometer. Let's say you design with some other technology, it's no use. So each and every step you should do with utmost care and attention. And there will be separate teams for each and every step. You need not to worry. And then a GDS2 5 generation, which we call as bit stream in our FPGA. So see, now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to eliminate all these steps, and I will go to FPGA. As simple as that. You will just write a code, you will connect the board, you will dump it. Done. So now coming to the steps, I won't repeat, which are, again the same steps I won't repeat. Design requirement, you know, design entry is writing, simulation is just checking whether you are functionally doing it correct or not, and then HDL code synthesis, you do the synthesis so that you will get a lookup table based netlist. You will have lookup tables, multiplexers, adders, all those things, and then you will do place and route, mapping, and then generating a bitstream file and dumping the code into the FPGA board, which we will be gonna show you in a while. Okay, don't worry about that. And this is like an enlarged picture of this. You will write the design, you will synthesis, then you will map, translate, place and route, and then you will generate the bitstream file, which I am gonna show you in tool. Okay, so see, all the steps, every step has its own complications got eliminated, and simply they are giving us a board which can be used multiple times. Let's say your senior is doing some project, you can reprogram that and use for your application. So that much flexibility is there in the FPGA board. Now see, time to market. ASIC will take long time because from the design requirement to the end, it's not an easy job. But whereas coming to FPGA, it's very short because already predefined architectures will be there. You will simply fabricate the same things. And then high volume unit cost. See, this thing you should understand carefully. Let's say you are coming and asking me to design one chip. Then ASIC cost will be very high, like crores of money. Now let's say the Intel laptops are fabricated in crores of count. Now the crores of chips with crores of count will be very minute amount. But coming to FPGA board, if 1 unit or 100 units, the cost will be same. Like one board, it's let's say 20,000, 10 boards into 10, that's it. They might give small discount if you order in bulk. Those are all not our primary interest. But my point of interest is, if you are buying in a bulk number, then ASIC is cheap. Compared to that, it's costly. And then flexibility. Yeah, all those things you can understand easily. Yeah, you can explore. We will send you the PPT. Till now, any queries? You can ask any kind of questions if you have. If you don't ask, I will feel like I explained too well. Okay? Yeah, you can take the mic. Yeah.
Can I compare it like a Raspberry Pi board?
Yeah, you can compare. I mean, you can explore that. See, Raspberry Pi board, Arduino boards, all those things are also kind of ASICs only. Okay, not FPGA to be frank.
But they are also programmable.
Yeah, programmable only. Yeah, you can use that also. But that in Raspberry Pi board, that is also called as a mini system. You call mini computer, right? But you can't have these many flexibilities like FPGA board on Raspberry Pi board. But yeah, that is also good.
Developing a custom logic could be difficult in Raspberry Pi. Custom logic. I think one application I need a different submodule. Understand? I think those submodules, I think it will take video processing, all those things. Those submodules using Raspberry Pi, as a typical, I think within the FPGA, you may bring it to it. It is not, I think Raspberry Pi, you have all sorts of accessories to it. Here, the idea is within FPGA, you are within one chip, you are bringing all the understand? Most of the system component, you are bringing within the that is the advantage of FPGA. And it is suitable for different applications. That is the idea. Rajay, anything?
Actually, Raspberry Pi is a lower end version we can support. We are going with FPGA, we can support for higher end applications. High speed and high computing tasks we can do with FPGA. So we can do it for the similar functionality with the FPGA as well as Raspberry, but we can't compare with the higher end.
Like FPGA boards, clock frequency will be like 500s or hundreds of megahertz. It's very high. Good question. Any other? Guys, if you ask quickly, then you can wind up first session. Any more questions or? Yeah.
In this tutorial, I am going to explain you how to dump your Verilog code into a Spartan 3 FPGA board. The board can be of anything. The only difference is the user constraints file that you're gonna write in your Xilinx tool. Because this is Spartan 3 board we have readily available with us, so we are gonna write the constraints file of this Spartan 3 board, and we'll show you the step-by-step process of how to write the Verilog code and how to synthesize it and how to do mapping, routing, all those things, and then how to dump that program that you have written into the Spartan 3 FPGA board that is available with us. And this is the board that is available with us, and this cable is the power cable which is connected to the 5-volt power supply. And here you're gonna see it is turning on, so power supply is coming to this FPGA board, and here this cable is to dump your program or bitstream file that is generated in your Xilinx tool. That bitstream file will be dumped into this Spartan 3 board using one more cable. Since this board is not the latest one, it is Spartan 3 board. In the Vertex or Nexus 4 DDR, all these FPGA boards, there will be only single cable, which is the USB cable, which is both. It can be used for both dumping the program as well as getting the power supply through the same cable. So without wasting time, let's get into the program.
I pre-assume that you guys know how to write Verilog code for full adder. In this code I have written full adder using instantiation of 2 half adders, and if not you can refer to my earlier tutorials. One more important thing is you should know how to write a user constraints file. How to create that means you can right click there on new source and then you click on that constraints file and you give the name. Since I have already written, I am closing this, and we'll be getting back on this what is the significance of this UCF. In the meantime, let me tell you how to write this user constraints file. You simply open the browser and then in the Google you type that Spartan 3 master constraints file. Okay, you simply type that in the Google, Spartan 3 master constraints file, then you just search for that particular thing. So there are 2 ways and this is one way, and you can open that link and you can simply copy paste the entire lines of code that was given there, which is called as user constraints file. You simply select the entire thing and you copy that and you paste in the Xilinx window. I'm copying that, and now you open your Xilinx and you simply paste. This will be blank when you create, and then you can paste here. That is one way of writing the user constraints file. And there is also other way. You can see there are user constraints and IO pin using the plan ahead. So you can double click on that and then will be there will be a plan ahead window opening. You can double click on that. It's not opening, so just double click once again on that. It will take some time, please be patient till it's open. And then you click on S, then the plan ahead window will be opening. Since we already created that, let this be loaded, and once after done you can close this. Yeah, since we already given those, so those will be available in the bottom. The bottom you can see already that all ports and scalar ports are for clocks, and in the all ports you can see that A, B, scene and sum and carry. Scalar ports are not there because these are all like all the ports that are present, so you can select from here also. But since we are already copy pasted the entire thing, here it will be coming by default, so you can close this. Just see the 2 ways to write the user constraints file. If you look here in the user constraints file, there are different interfacing things. Like on the board there will be different things present, like push buttons, LEDs, and these digital to analog converter, analog to digital converter, clock inputs, and all those things. Many more things will be there. So this UCF indicates that you are creating an interface between the code that you are writing and the things that are present on the board. Now you have to give the names here. You can see I am giving A for particular pin H13, and for V4 I am giving as B, and for K17 I am giving as C in, like that. So for the push buttons I am giving as inputs A, B, C in, and at the LEDs I will be taking my output. And here you can see I am taking my output sum at F12 LED that is present on the board, and my carry out C0 I am taking at E12 that will be present on the board, which I will be showing the hardware demo. On the board I will be showing where these LEDs and all will be located. So once we are done with that, you just synthesize and then implement design and then generate program file. But if you click directly on the program file, then all the above steps will be carried out. So synthesis is already done. It will take slightly some time. Now the translating is also done, and then it will be doing mapping and then place and route step. Once after those two steps, it will be creating a programmable file which is of the extension .bit, which is called as bitstream file also. That bitstream file need to be dumped. So let's wait, the process is going on. The translation and mapping is done, and once this place and route step got completed, then the implement design also will be getting a green tick. But there will be in some cases when you are designing a high-end modules and all, you will get warnings which are okay. So you can ignore the warnings also, but just go through what kind of warnings are there, whether they are port mismatches or what kind of warnings are present, and if they are okay to ignore, then you can ignore the warnings also. Here you can see the place and route step is also been done. Then a programming file is being generated, which is nothing but a bitstream that is generating. That bitstream need to be dumped into the board. Okay, so yeah, you can see that bitstream file is also generated in this step. It's time to dump the code into the board. Now you click on that configure target device and click on OK. Now an impact window will be opened. In that, click on the boundary scan. After this step, the board should be turned on. You switch on the power supply and then right click at the space that was showing here, and then you click on initialize chain. Once you are done with that, then the board will be identified, and then you click on S, and then you load with the bit file, .bit file that is generated. You go to the location where the .bit file is stored and you open that so that it will be loaded into that. Now here proms and all are PROMs and all are not required, so click on no, and then you bypass the other two. You simply click on that bypass and once again, and now you apply, that is the family type of the device that we are using, that is 500E, and then you click on apply and then OK. Now you have to right click and then you have to load the program.
Then you can see it's being programmed. You bring the, once you are done with that, then it will be showing as dumped. This shows that the program is dumped, and in the user constraints file you have seen that this H13 pin that is present here is A, and this push button that is present V4 is B and K17 is C. Now this LED that is present F12 corresponds to sum and E12 corresponds to carry. Now here you see, if I press on this A, it means ABC 1 0 0, so your sum is 1 and your carry is 0. If I release this button and if I, let's say if I press 2, so A and B are 1, then you can see here the carry is 1 and the sum is 0. Now if I press all the three, so ABC equal to 1 1 1, then you can see that both LEDs are glowing here, which indicates that you can test any cases here. There are 8 combinations for 3 inputs. So if you click 1, then your sum will be 1. If you click 2, any two, then your carry will be 1. And if you click all the 3, then your sum as well as carry both will be 1. So in this way you can dump the Verilog code. As soon as you are done with that, you please switch off the disconnect the power supply to the board, because if you leave the board connected to the power supply for a long time, then this board gonna spoil. So in this way you can dump your Verilog code onto the hardware board or FPGA board, and you can verify the results on onboard simulations. You can check whether they are matching with the input combinations that you are thinking to get. So as simple as that, and it is very interesting if you're gonna explore more by dumping codes or programs onto the board and to verify the simulations. Apart from these LEDs, there are many other components which you can use, like you have seen in the user constraints file. You can explore all those things and you can do wonders using FPGA board.
Students, you might have signals and systems, right?
there you can you will learn many signals and you will analyze the signals. So analyzing the signals part is called signal processing. And you may heard about analog signals and digital signals. Analog signal is continuous in both the domains, continuous in amplitude way and continuous in time way. But digital signal is discrete in both the ways. That's the difference between this analog and digital signals. So here we are concentrating on analyzing this digital signal part. So we are coding about, we are designing a processor which can analyze a digital signals. So this is the main block. So you think of a DSP processor, a processor of a black box. It will take inputs as a digital signals, and it will give outputs of analyzed, synthesize the signals and what process the signals. Let me give a quick introduction of what a processor is. See, processor is nothing but it takes the inputs, it analyzes and according to your requirement and gives the output. And you simply can compare a processor with a human body itself. See, our human body can take we have a sense organs, right? Eyes, ears, and our touch. Skin is also a sense organ. So with these organs we can take the input. Our brain acts as a control system. Our brain and control system, and it acts as a processor, and it gives what action we have to do with these inputs, like what we have seen, like what we have heard through our muscles, hands and legs. So you compare your sense organs as a sensors of a processor, and what we are seeing and what we are hearing as inputs. We compare this as inputs. You can see here. With eyes and ears we are taking the output, and here muscles, legs and hands as a DC motors. So in the same way, the DSP, the processor will take the inputs, it processes and it gives the output, like with what we have to do with that signals, and it gives the control signals to the output, whether it is a DC motor or anything which you have connected, what are the requirement for this. So and coming to the nervous system, see, the processor will give the control signals. Those control signals can be compared with this nervous system. Yeah, like this. You are getting my point. Right? Coming to the leading DSP manufacturers, these are the major companies which are manufacturing today the DSP processors. If you see the NXP Semiconductors, ST Microelectronics, Analog Devices and Texas Instruments, all these are foreign companies. We import from these companies and we use in our country. So ISRO came forward and it wanted to set up a research, like a startup environment, startup environment to guide your ideas, and so that we can code our modules, we can do the processor in our country itself. So this STIC is nothing but Space Technology Incubation Center. So it is purely to build relations between academics and industry. So if you have any design ideas, if you want to keep startups in these domains, you can, this STIC cell can guide you for startups. They can guide your ideas. So coming to an introduction of this, so what we are doing, so this project is under STIC itself. So what we are doing is basically all the signals in the real world are in analog nature. So if you take a mic itself, what I am talking is in analog in nature. Here one sensor will be there. This will capture those analog signal and it will convert into a digital signal and it will process there and will get the output. Why we are going to digital? Because it is easy to process and it requires less memory for digital signals to process and synthesize and analyze. So because of that we are going to digital signal processing. So this is the block diagram which we are doing. So if you see this, if you see this, we can see here. Here we have a memory part. Here we have a entire control processing part. In this control processing part, we have ALU, we have MAC. MAC is nothing but multiplication and accumulation. We can have some memory data register in the control processing and shift rotate part. And here some applications, blocks of applications like timer, interrupt module, I2C, and interpolation and decimation, and control unit for which gives a control signals for entire process. And we go through these blocks in couple of minutes. And after that we see what are the features of this the DSP processor. So for every processor we have two architectures. Like two architectures in the sense we have one is called Harvard architecture and one is von Neumann architecture. The difference between these is in Harvard architecture we have a data memory and separate program memory. So for a processor to run, we should have a program memory and data memory. This program memory stores the instructions and data memory stores the data. So to store this in Harvard architecture, we will use a separate memories. But when coming to von Neumann architecture, to store both programs and data, we will store only in a single memory. So if you see here, we kept separate memory for both data and instruction. This is called data memory and this is called both instruction memory and program memory. So this is the Harvard architecture. So because of this separate memories, we use separate buses to access data and memory. Called like to access this data memory, we will take a data bus. To access the program memory, we access a program bus. So in like this. So coming to the features, this Harvard architecture is just now I have explained. So it contains both separate data memory and address memory. So coming to the memory, we designed a data memory of 64 kilobytes and both data memory and program memory of 64 kilobytes. And we have all general purpose registers like stack pointer, program counter, and 16-bit and general purpose registers. And main important feature of this is 16-bit fixed point processor. See, your laptops may use 32-bit or 64-bit. What that number indicates is that if your laptop is a 32-bit laptop, your laptop can access and analyze the 32-bit numbers. If it is 64-bit processor, that your laptop processor can analyze 64-bit numbers. Here we are designing a 16-bit fixed point processor. That is nothing but this processor can analyze using only a 16-bit numbers. So that is the so these are the features of this processor which we are doing. And coming to the instruction part, see what is an instruction. So this is architecture of this block diagram. Suppose we want to write in the data into a data memory. Since it is a processor, we cannot directly go into the data memory. We cannot just write it. We all this data memory, all the blocks are accessed only through instruction. If we want to write into data memory, we have to give an instruction so that processor understands that this instruction is nothing but we have to write some data into the instruction. So for each instruction, for each operation, we have to give an instruction. So this is the instruction format. So since it is a 16-bit processor, we are taking a 16-bit instruction. Since it can analyze only 16-bit data. So in this you can see these last MSB bits are nothing but opcode. Just now I have said if you write the data, we have to give a writing instruction. How the processor understands that it is a writing instruction by seeing this opcode. By seeing this opcode, this processor can understand what type of instruction it is. See, for each operation, whether it is a write, whether it is a read, whether it is addition, whether it is subtraction, we have to give a separate opcode. For this opcode, so by seeing that opcode, this processor understands that it has to do this certain operation. So this and lower LSB bit is nothing but offset. This offset gives like which memory location to have we have to access the data, and this single bit indicates address type of addressing mode. There are different types of addressing modes, but it will be too deep if I explain, and time is also less. And these are some example instructions. This 01 is nothing but opcode of a store. This 01 is in of hexadecimal format. So if the opcode is of 01, it is nothing but this processor understands that it has to store some data. Like we have to write some data into it. So if I give a 0101 instruction, this 01 indicates opcode of store, and this 01 is an offset. That is nothing but we have to, if I give an instruction of 0101, so this 01 indicates a writing instruction. This 01 is address. That means I have to write a data in the 01 address. So similarly, this node address. If I want to read the data from the processor, so for that the opcode is 03. So if I give instruction as 0301, so I have to read the data from 01 address. Similarly, there is something called accumulator in the processor. If you want to, like, what is the process, like what is the status of this processor, like whether it is what type of operation it is doing, like to read the output, you can see this accumulator. All the outputs are stored in this accumulator. So if you want to store any data in the accumulator, the opcode is 6A. If you give 6A01, the data which is stored in 01 offset address is stored in accumulator. Similarly, add is for the opcode is 21. If you give opcode like instruction as 2001, 20 is nothing but opcode for add, and 01 is the offset address. So it will add the data stored in accumulator and the data stored in 01. So this is how instruction we write the instruction for each operation. Coming to the subblocks, like these are the subblocks, and I will go briefly of each subblock. Data memory, and I have just now said like we are using a 64 kilobytes of data memory, and we design that it's not like a continuous memory locations. We design in pages. Like the 64 kilobytes memory is divided into 512 pages. So each page it consists of 128 bytes of memory. So the entire 64 kilobytes memory is stored in 512 pages. So 512 pages into 128 kilobytes is nothing but 64 kilobytes. Into 128 words we give 64 kilobytes of memory. So program memory. Similarly, we have given program memory of 64 kilobytes. Same as data memory. In program memory, we store these instructions. So what we have explained, these instructions we have stored in the program memory, and the required data will be stored in the data memory. So since it is a hardware architecture, we have to follow the separate memory for data and program memory. Coming to ALU, you all people know it's arithmetic logic unit. The processor, the ALU performs some basic operations like addition, subtraction, and multiplication like that. Since it is 16-bit processor, the ALU will also do the 16-bit operations like 16-bit addition of 16-bit numbers, subtraction of 16-bit numbers like that, and multipliers. So coming to multipliers, the speed of the processor will be depend on how fast your multiplier is. If you see, like if you study, like I think EC and instrumentation students can know about they would have studied signal science systems. They got a topic called Fourier transform, like fast Fourier transform. It involves multiplication of complex numbers. See, multiplying two numbers involves a lot, like a very heavy process. We have to multiply each bit, and with that partial products will be formed, and how those partial products should be added to get the multiplied output. It is very long process. So if you multiply two complex numbers, it involves 4 additions and 3 multiplications. And you may know, like, so to multiply two complex numbers, you have to perform three multipliers, which is chain multiplication only, very long. So multipliers decides the speed of the processor. So we design a multiplier which which is very fast. Like we designed using carry look ahead adders and carry save adders. It gives very good better performance. And coming to math is nothing but multiplication and accumulation unit. And you know this in Fourier transform and in DFTs, in discrete Fourier transform, it is nothing but multiplying and addition. So it is nothing but multiplication and accumulation. So this math is also very important to operate for the process to operate to very speed. So these two are very important for operation of a processor. Like to determine the speed of a processor. If these two blocks are very speed, your processor is very speed. If these two blocks are slow, then the processor operation will be very slow. Coming to timers, there are software timers and hardware timers, but we are using only software timers. That is, so since it is 16-bit processor, it can count up to numbers which is of 16-bit only. So after the required time, if you give 20 nanoseconds of time, this processor will count up to 20 nanoseconds and it will give an interrupt to the processor. After that, the processor will stop counting. So this interrupt will handle interrupt controller. And I2C is nothing but inter-integrated circuit module. This I2C is used for communication between processor and other modules of the PCB. In the PCB there are different modules, different IPs. So to communicate between these blocks, this I2C is used. This I2C performs serial communication. So we use this I2C is nothing but because since it is serial communication and it requires very less hardware, only 2 words. There is 2 words called SDA and SCA. This 2 words is required for this I2C communication. DMA is next block is DMA, this direct memory access. See in the entire module we have processor, the memory and input outputs. Sometimes we have to directly access the memory, like we have to read the memory or we have to directly read or write the memory. At that time we don't need any processor like any ALU operation, any MAC operation. Directly we have to read the memory. At that time this DMA block is used. So at that time the processor will be idle, the DMA will be active. So we can directly access the memory. Coming to interrupt control. So suppose the processor is performing a operation. At the time where there were interrupts. Like suppose if you are talking to a person, you are in a deep conversation. At the time you may have you may get a phone call. That is an interrupt. It depends upon you to leave that phone call or not. How important the call is. So if the call is important, you have to stop talking with that person and you have to accept the call. So what you are doing is your main program talking to the person. You are interrupted by that call. So you have to analyze whether we have to accept this call or reject the call. So this task is done by this interrupt controller. So all here previously I showed, like I have told here, interrupt will be generated after the timer. So this will be handling, all interrupts will be handled by this interrupt controller. So these are the blocks. So this is a brief overview of the project, this project what we are doing. So since it is in this many blocks are involved, so it requires many hardware, like a large amount of hardware. It requires a large amount of LUTs. So this cannot be done in a small device. So like previously one person asked me, can we compare FPGA or Raspberry Pi? So this cannot be done in Raspberry Pi or Arduino. This can be done in only FPGA. This is a huge project, like huge hardware. It requires huge hardware. So you can check the outputs only in the FPGA. You can implement the hardware only in FPGA. And so to analyze the output in the tool by simulations we can analyze the output. But when coming to the hardware, you will get some disturbances, like you can get some glitches. So you cannot wait for this processor to fabricate and after that you may not check. Like so for that you can directly dump in the FPGA and you can check the outputs. So this is the project we are